All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Broscast episode 3. If you'd like to make any inquiries to sponsorship of the show, you can send your emails to Gïrth Games at Outlook, I think. I don't know. It's on the channel page thing.
Do we still have Twitter too?
We've got Twitter at Gïrth Games.
At Gîrth Games. That's not bad. Actually, yep, that's us.
Yeah, at Gïrth Games. Gotta give up.
If you type that into Google, then pretty much everything that comes up is Gîrth Games.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it in a long time. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it brings up a couple of YouTube videos. I actually really like the top 10 most subscribed Let's Players. You might have to do a follow-up to that, and like 6 months or a year after.
Just
go back next May.
Like more subscribed.
Well, where is everyone at now? Because PewDiePie was only at, what, 35?
Yeah. I think it was 38 when I did it, and now he's at 40.
So imagine where he'll be in another 6 months.
And Markiplier, I think he's made 3 million more subscribers since I made that video.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was at, what, 8 at the time, right?
I think it was 8, or maybe it was a little above 7. No, because I had done it right after he was in the hospital, and I talked about how he had addressed his audience from the hospital, and people were saying, let's try to get him 7 million subscribers before he gets out of the hospital as a thank you.
Wow.
And he just hit 10.
Yeah, I think Five Nights at Freddy's really, really catapulted him ahead a bit.
For sure. It's rare to see a video or a YouTube channel with his Five Nights at Freddy's stuff is more popular than his subscription base. Like
really?
Oh yeah, way more.
Wow, isn't that interesting? And is there 4 or 5 games in the Five Nights at Freddy's series?
4. And the guy who made it, there's only one guy who made it too. He said he's done, but you never know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that happens a lot. You remember when Halo was supposed to be a trilogy?
Yeah, we're on 5.
A long time ago, yeah. Oh boy.
Okay. We have 2 things on the list of things to do for this episode. The docket, yes. The first is, or actually, it can go in either direction, but it doesn't matter to me. 1 is that you were on an interesting field trip, and 2 is I have a list of things that I want to talk about regarding what we're gonna play on the show.
Okay.
I had never listed it before. You remember how, like, months ago, thank you, City Bus, for braking hard next to my microphone.
Is that what that was? I thought that was feedback.
Yeah. The City Buses, man. They don't make, from what I've heard, they don't make money. The City Bus here it makes enough to continue running, but just barely. So they don't upgrade very much. They don't fix things very often. So I get to hear every 5 fucking minutes because I'm right next to 2 bus stations or 2 bus stops.
You're a transfer point, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm also down the street from a fire station, and then up the street, the other direction, is the only hospital in town, and I'm next to a highway and an industrial section. So it's like every fucking single type of loud vehicle you can imagine.
So you're pretty much a recording artist's dream.
Yes. Thank you, City Bus.
I think we might have a new name for the episode.
Thank you, City Bus. So far, I've been calling them just Broscast 1 or 2, but we can definitely name them for sure. What the fuck were we talking about before the bus came in here?
I think we were deciding what we should talk about. I think it actually makes sense. I'll tell you a bit about my trip first.
Yeah.
I'll give you just a brief once over. I'll tell you more about it after. If anyone's interested, there's a lot of stuff I'm not going to talk about, so leave a comment or something, and I'll respond to that. But have you ever been to Sudbury? Because I'd actually never been to Sudbury before this trip.
No.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Sudbury's just a place in Ontario. Town I drove by all the time, just never been. They have this huge nickel, this like 20-meter tall nickel We actually went and took a picture at that, which was pretty cliche for a school trip.
Ontario has, I don't know if this is everywhere else, but Ontario has a huge volume of large objects marking towns. Like we
Yep.
have New Liskeard has a giant cow.
Oh yeah,
Which one has the giant fish?
the
Oh,
giant
two of
fish.
them.
Two of them, yeah, Larder Lake and Martin River.
Yeah.
Then there's a giant Muskoka chair somewhere.
Oh, there's a giant buffalo just
There's a
outside of Kirkland Lake.
Yep, there's a giant buffalo that's in Earlton, I think. See, well, you got to mark yourself somewhere up there because you're pretty much just another town in the middle of a bunch of trees otherwise.
That's true. We went to the top of a mountain near there, and I didn't realize how small all the towns are in comparison to the wilderness. The trees were just swallowing the cities. It was really cool, actually.
The weird thing is when you go the opposite direction and you're driving on the 401 from Toronto out towards Montreal,
Yeah.
because you see the fact that the city never ever ends. You go from Toronto to Ajax to Pickering, and then you're still in Toronto. Like you've never left fully
Yeah.
developed areas, but you're actually like 3 towns away, and you've been driving for 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's really built up near Toronto. It's definitely a really cool city. I really like the heart, like the downtown area of Toronto. I know it's a huge area, but I've only been there a few times, and every time it's too much to take in. It's so fucking big. It really is like a concrete jungle. It feels like a place you could get easily lost in.
Yeah, the weird thing about it is it's Canada's one city that. Well, I actually haven't been to Vancouver, so I can't speak about that, nor Calgary. But when you look at Montreal, which is our second biggest city in Canada, it doesn't look like Toronto. It doesn't have these massive, massive high-rise buildings.
Hmm.
In Quebec, they have these 4 or 5 story buildings from way back in the day, like stone buildings that have a lot of really nice molding and stuff. But their downtown core is like 2 stories high, the occasional 3 story building. And it's just like shops layered on top of each other. It's really cool. Not as industrial as Toronto is.
Yeah, and Vancouver. I think I was listening to this on. No, it wasn't Joe Rogan. It was our grandparents. They were saying how there's towns in BC that are just they belong to the wildlife. Like you don't. There's certain times of the year where there's nothing you can do about the deer. That there's too many of them. Like you slow down because there's so many deer. Just like the whole thing is just taken up by them, and also places. I believe it was in BC as well, where it gets so difficult to get there that pretty much everybody doesn't live there in certain times of the year. Like winter, they just don't live there.
They just shut their houses down.
They shut the whole town down.
Wow.
Yeah, and bears too. A lot of bears in BC.
Well, bears in BC are a lot scarier than bears here. Because
Yeah.
bears here, you could very conceivably scare off if you have a dog that's not going to chase after it. And if you have a gun, you're generally pretty safe.
Yeah.
But a grizzly bear doesn't give a shit what you do.
Hmm.
If it wants you or what you have, it's going to take you or what you have.
Yeah, grizzlies are scary.
And they're big. They're a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah, they actually. I think that they look bigger than they are because of their fur, and they're really weird looking when they get soaking wet. They look mangy and dehydrated.
Yeah, they. Have you ever seen a washed cow?
A washed cow?
Yeah, like a groomed cow, I guess.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, I'm doing a Google. Yeah, go to a Google image search for
All right.
washed cow, and just go to the first one. It's like a white and. I encourage anybody watching to do this. Go groomed cow, Google image, and it's so puffy. It's huge. It's like, and even go to the second image. There's 2 cows in it.
They look like toys.
Massive, yeah. They're so furry. It's because they're normally just so matted down from the rain and everything.
That's hilarious. They look like stuffed animals. They look like little cow sheep.
Look how much fur they have.
Oh, we got completely sidetracked from our original point.
Yeah,
Um,
so Sudbury.
Sudbury, yes.
Uh, we headed into Sudbury on a Monday, and we didn't really do anything that day. But the next day, I went to a site where there was three old mining sites that were super barbaric. They would just drill straight down, just make a hole. They would follow that hole, and when they couldn't find anything, they would just leave it and they would just walk away.
Hmm.
So there was places we would find ore deposits on the surface, like we were just standing on top of them. They were exposed, and they
Wow.
probably have been exposed ever since back in the day. They just were so short-sighted, I guess, back then that they just ignored most of it.
Yeah.
So they showed us the whole walkover of basically how they do it, and they brought us to their version of tailings, like the tailings in like
Yeah.
Kirkland Lake area with the that weird uh, sludge slime, I guess they call
Mm-hmm.
them. So we went to these, and they were like sand, like beach sand, yellow, like you couldn't tell the difference between that and a gravel pit somewhere.
Wow.
But then you got to the middle and everything started to go crazy. Started to have that weird consistency where when you step on it, water comes out.
Yeah, tailings are weird. We got stuck really bad one time in tailings. Could you explain for the audience? Because I don't even think I fully understand what mine tailings are.
So mine tailings are actually completely different from site to site.
Oh, okay.
So part of the reason they were so weird in Kirkland Lake is that when you do gold processing, you almost never see gold. It's usually you have like micro amounts of gold, and you basically dissolve it out of the rock.
Right.
So the tailings from gold are generally pretty gnarly, and what happens is they go in, but they're all identical because they've all done the exact same process. Nothing natural has happened to them. So they collect water in this really unnatural way because they're one cohesive mass.
Hmm.
And they just hold that water and they seem solid, but then as you start to walk on them and step on them, water just exudes and they turn back into mud.
Very strange. They completely filled the Kirkland Lake. The lake that the town was named after, and now the lake is empty, and their nicest lake is next to it, which is not named Kirkland Lake.
Yeah, actually, our we know somebody who's trying to get one of the nearby lakes renamed to Kirkland Lake so that they at least have some body of water to call their own.
We do, yes. I had somebody ask me. I've had a few funny questions when I talked about Kirkland Lake, and someone says, "Is that where the water comes from?"
Oh no!
And I'm like, "What?" They're like, Kirkland water. I'm like, oh,
Oh man,
oh boy.
that's a good one.
Yes, it all comes from there.
Yeah, actually, I guess I should sort of generalize my next statement. I was going to say we went underground on another day, and the mine we went to the 7,500 foot level. So
Wow.
that's 2.25 kilometers or a mile and a half if you're Imperial.
This is this is underground?
Yeah, underground.
Ugh.
So we had to get up at 4:50 in the morning because we had to be there for I think 6, and then we had this whole 2-hour training session. They gave us full head to toe coveralls, steel toed rubber boots, these hard hats that had earmuffs attached to them as well as headlamps attached to them.
Whoa.
And I was wearing the only thing you wear underneath is your underwear, multiple pairs of socks because the boots are like quadruple E. They're huge. And then you just have this belt on. And the reason you have this belt is it's got this industrial strength loop at the back. So if anything happens in the mine, they can hoist you out.
Huh.
Yeah, so you wear this loop, and that's how you keep things in your coveralls. So I would just put my water bottle like in like the chest opening of my coveralls, and it would just rest on my belt.
Did it feel? I mean, I don't know how you feel about underground and claustrophobia and stuff like that. Was it something you were you nervous going down there?
I was nervous and excited, but I was only excited once I was all strapped up and about to get in the cage.
Right.
Because the nerves was more, I've never been to a mine, so, I have to learn a bunch of stuff before I go under. But, they told us everything we needed to know, and it's one of those things. Stuff happens in mines, but in Canadian mines now, the fatality rate and even the injury rate is shockingly low.
Yeah.
And plus, we're students. If anything happened to us, they would be screwed. So they actually, well, we were going to the deepest base metal mine in the world.
Wow.
So yeah, they're quite well established, and they've been in operation since I believe '66.
Hmm.
And the one thing I wasn't really prepared for was we knew it was going to be hot going down there, but we didn't know how variable the temperature would be. So some places it was cold because we were right underneath the ventilation. So
Oh.
there's maybe, I think it was like -2 outside. So there's maybe 0 degree air being thrown into the tunnel, and we're kind of cold. And then we'd walk 300 meters up the tunnel, and it would be boiling because it's now 27 degrees.
That is such a strange thing. It's just constantly, no matter where you are, there's always that underground area that people just forget about. You just feel like the world you're standing on is completely solid and there's nothing going on down there. But it's just this crazy world underneath of pressure and heat and nonsense.
Yeah, and one of the things you forget is that for every kilometer you go down, the temperature goes up about 25 degrees.
Is that because of the pressure, or is that you?
No, that's the geothermal gradient.
That's cool.
That's the heat from the core is just, it's right there. The only reason the crust is cold is because the crust is the Earth's representation of magma cooling when it gets to the surface.
Oh,
That's what
I never.
creates the crust.
Oh, I never thought of it like that. I mean, I probably
Yeah,
have. I just forgot. But it's been explained to me hundreds of times by various scientists, and I forget it. And somebody explains it again, and it's just as impressive.
yeah, we spend a lot of time learning the same concepts from marginally different angles, but that's, part of the beautiful part about it is you get a better understanding when you learn it the sixth time. And
Yeah,
the little piece of information you got this time just makes everything click, and you just go, "Oh yeah,
it's the
okay."
yeah. I think that's a really important part. Something that should be emphasized more often in teaching for traditional schooling is that a lot of the time when I was really bad at things like math was really bad for me, and you could explain it to me 100 times and I still didn't understand, or I knew what to do but not why we were doing it, and so it was hard for me to understand it. But I had a few teachers who would just say it in a way, and I'd heard it 100 times from every other teacher in my life, and then this one just said it just in just one slight difference, and I got it. Like oh, I had a science teacher. He was really good, and I can't remember his name, but he I never understood ions. I think it was electrons, and he described it in an analogy between hot and cold. That he said without there's no hot and cold. There's just heat or no heat, and he used that to explain something about electrons or ions or something. But I didn't understand it for an entire semester until he used that one analogy, and that was it. Boom! I get it now.
Yeah, the big thing is to listen to what part of a problem someone is missing.
Yes.
Because if you just hear that the person doesn't get it and then you start explaining, there's a disconnect between why they asked you the question and the answer you're giving.
Yep.
I get that a lot from TAs. You'll ask them a question, they'll answer, and in your head you're thinking, you clearly started answering the question the second I started asking it. So I'm just going to leave and ask someone who knows.
Yeah. There, I knew this guy in school, or in college, and he would always say, like, "No, I understand," but, and then he would just, he clearly didn't understand, but he just put those words ahead of it, and it made it really confusing, because he would say, "Oh, no, I understand," but, and then he would ask the same question, clearly indicating he didn't understand what he was talking about.
This was the one that asked how many dots per inch there were in a page, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, it was DPI, dots per inch, which is a printing.
Resolution, right?
Can you hear that car alarm?
I can, yes.
Seriously?
It actually kind of sounds like people driving by on the road because it'll only pick up every so often. Sounds like everyone's pissed.
I gotta close this window. It's still loud.
Yeah, it didn't change anything. you, you should listen to the recording of that after. You hear the window close and the alarm is still there.
Tis stopped. Alarm systems. We need to talk about that one day. All right. What was I just talking about? Oh, yes, dots per inch is a printing term. And he asked me if 600 DPI was big. And I said, DPI is a rate. And he says, no, I understand, but how is it big? Like, no, it doesn't have a size. It's a rate. It like and then this was really late in the year, and I had just become fed up with his question, so I just walked away. But later, I realized how I could have explained it. How fast, or no, how far is 50 kilometers an hour?
Yeah, I think
Like,
what he was trying to get at is that a high value.
Yeah,
but you can't. Yeah, you're right. When someone just says it to you in the words that don't make sense, you can't really be expected to translate.
Yeah, and it was really funny. I get a lot of really funny customers at work, and somebody says, yeah, I'd like to get the unlimited topping pizza. And I said, it's actually only up to 10. And she's like, great, give me the unlimited topping pizza. Like, okay.
Keep going.
Sometimes, I really like that I have this job, because it's really put me in just about every scenario you can imagine, because I meet nice people and mean people. I meet smart nice people and smart dumb or smart mean people. Like every variation of a person I've met and or talked to. And it really puts you in a state of mind where you're always ready to change based on what's happening in the situation. Because they taught me on how to answer the phone and what to say and in what order things have to go, but customers don't give a fuck about the order. Like they don't care about giving you the address before to make sure that you actually deliver to them. Some people will just call and just say, hi, and then they'll just say their name, their phone number, their address, and their pizza, like all in just one big sentence. And they think they're trying.
You're gonna have to repeat that whole thing.
Yeah, like they think that they're doing really well, and in some cases, people who order a lot do know how to get through the order process better. But you can't just be like, "Hi, it's John Smith at this phone number and this address. This is what I want." I need those things in one at a time, sir, please.
Yeah, actually, we order from this pizza place. We had never ordered pizza, but ironically, we order from this pizza place all the time. And so I always end up having to be the one that does the orders. You call and you say, "I'd like to place an order for delivery."
Yeah.
And it's just so simple, but it's perfect because now they know exactly what you're gonna do, and they'll lead you through the rest of the process.
That's it. This is to everybody.
To the world.
To the world. I'm speaking.
Address them, Gïrth.
All right. Let me just burp away from the microphone.
Address the people.
Let a customer service employee guide you through. Like, listen to them. What's their next question? And no, I of course, this doesn't apply for there are lots of terrible customer service people. I've already met them many times in my life. I walked into a Subway one time and said, "Hi, can I get a large or not a large? It's a foot-long meatball sub." And the guy says, "No." And I just sit there staring at him like, why? And he says, "We don't have any meatballs."
Oh man.
Oh boy. This is how it should have gone. "Hi, I'd like to get a meatball sub. I'm sorry, we're actually out of meatballs. Can I interest you in something else regarding meat?" That's how it goes. You guide them through. And I got really good. I was really bad at first on the phones because you're learning. When you're learning a new job, you're trying to figure out how to do it. But when you're learning a new job, when you're talking to customers, you're dealing with them and learning a new job. So it's a lot of stuff going on. And I got really good at just pushing through, or just moving along a conversation when the person says something that stops the flow. Like they'll say something like, "Oh, it's bullshit." And I was like, "I'm very sorry. Is there something else I can do for you?" You just keep going. You just keep pushing through.
What's also good as a service employee is that at the end of the day, you don't really care if you make the sale
No.
because you're not on commission at all,
Yeah.
and you don't ever have to see this customer again.
Yeah.
And if you do, it reflects more on them than it reflects on you in a way. So you don't really have to care what they're ultimately getting at the end of it. If they're being an asshole, you can kind of just let them not get anything out of it.
Yeah, what I try to do, or if I'm doing as much as I possibly can under the circumstances, I don't feel bad if something, if it's not perfect for the customer. If I've just done it as good as it possibly could have been, and then just something or unforeseen happens, then I'm not worried about it. What I don't like is when I forget to give them something that I should have given them, or forget to explain something and it's completely on me. That's when it bothers me, and I keep getting better and better at it. But it's one of those things where when you're gonna answer 100 or no 100 and what did I do? I answered 141 calls last week,
Wow.
and you can't spend you want to reduce the amount of time you spend if you're doing 141 phone calls in a week.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure each one is like a minute and a half rather than 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why there's certain things where I could explain the differences between the two things, but it's better if I just ask them what they want and then figure it out on my own whether it's a better price instead of explaining it, because there's a lot of a confusion when you explain like, oh, it's up to this toppings and on that, and then you say if you do this, but then if you add that, it's better. Instead, I just go, I just figure out what they want, and then I go and figure out based on what I already know about the system that I'm using.
Yeah, those little time savings I find are becoming more important. That's why on my computer, at batches, right? Like the MS-DOS
Yeah.
programming. I've started using that a lot more because I can just make really simple things that just make it easier to use my computer. Stuff like I told you I have a program that pings the league server for me and tells me if it's good, right?
Yeah, super smart.
And I gave that to one of my housemates as well. So whenever we start playing, we just both run it, make sure our computers are fine, and that tells us immediately if it's worth playing.
Nice.
On top of that, I have another one, and as soon as I open it, it just brings me to my files from this year, rather than having to open all my documents, go to fourth year, and then select which class.
That's super cool.
And the best is that it's always intrinsic to any PC I use, so I can generically use that for whatever I want.
Yeah. Would it work on Mac?
No, Mac, I imagine, would be completely different, just because they don't actually really even have a notepad. They have Word
Hmm.
for something. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Hmm. All right.
I think it's time for the game chat.
Yeah, I think we digressed from mining to customer service.
Yeah, somehow.
I don't remember how we got to customer service though.
But we had a good segue in the end there. I've actually been playing League of Legends quite a bit recently. Got back into ranked just because ranked is a little more engaging.
My hesitation for playing League on my own is that you can do so well and your teammates can completely drag you down.
Which is exactly why yesterday we started playing threes.
Oh.
We played threes almost exclusively yesterday.
Yeah, a group of people with at least, well, I would say three. 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 3 if they're good and they're in your Skype call, you have a much higher chance of doing well, even if the rest of the people aren't doing so well.
Agreed. Having
you
2 people out of a team of 5 isn't quite enough.
Yeah, but you, me, and Moofy on a fives team, all doing well, could most likely do well. I guess based on how bad. Of course, you could do really bad. The other 2 people could do horrible, but we would have a much higher chance of winning than if it was just you and I.
Yeah, that's actually part of why we switched over to threes because I generally play with just one of my housemates. I guess I'll just go by the call tag Sergeant Buttlicker for now.
Sergeant, but I get it.
Yeah,
It's the B liquor thing.
yeah, Sergeant Bielik, that's his league name. And we always play together, so we always thought, if we play duo bot in league, that would be perfect. That's where we would sort of shine and carry our team.
Yeah.
But it's 2 out of 5 is just not enough. So we figured we play Tristan Tree Line. We at least have 2/3 of the team. So we either have one person who's a wild card, or we invite one guy over and we're whole again.
Hmm.
So we just started a ranked team yesterday. We didn't even play a single blind game. We just played nothing but ranked. Went straight for it.
You gotta go. You gotta go hard or something. How does
Balls
that
to
go?
the wall, yeah.
Balls to the wall. All right, all right. So I got a list of stuff here, um, and there's several versions of things, and some of them are games that we can go back to. I'll start with that. All right, we could go back to Dishonored, Shank, or Oblivion.
Hmm. Okay, so those are so Oblivion. We only played what, two like 20-minute episodes or three 20-minute episodes?
Yeah, four I think. But with Oblivion, I lost the save file.
Okay,
So, and I was also thinking Sneak would be a lot more interesting.
just because it'd be funnier.
Yeah, yeah, and we could do all the Brotherhood quests. Um,
Yeah, try and do them right.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, maybe we make a new guy, but Chuckles stays.
Chuckles? His
Or
name was
Grumples, Grumples stays.
I figured we would just make it episode 5. It's the same. It's the same
Well,
thing.
we've done it before. What other game did we restart?
I can't remember.
Oh, no, never mind. We were never able to produce it. We played, uh, God, Castlevania 4.
We did,
We
yes.
played it for a number of episodes, but it was made by Konami, and we couldn't get the rights to actually put it up. I remember we. Oh, and also we couldn't get the rights to put up Donkey Kong Country either.
Yeah,
2 games we restarted like 3 times in the middle of episode 4 or something.
I should have. See, the Donkey Kong ones, I just didn't want to figure out what I had to do in order to upload those. But I should look it up. I
So
should
you're
definitely
lazy.
Yeah, I'm a lazy fuck. The amount of stuff that we haven't uploaded, man. Like, I didn't even put Drinking Buddies together. I don't even know if I have it.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I had a great time anyways, so that's
Yeah, well, we lost the first episode.
Oh right, I remember there was some pretty bad recording that went down on that.
Yeah.
That was a bad setup. We tried it a little too last minute, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. But yeah, Oblivion, I'd still have to do some work on it to make sure that it runs right. But Shank runs very well. And Dishonored runs pretty well, too. Also, I just realized something else. It's not the most interesting game, I would say. I mean, I like it, but it's probably not my top choice right now. But it's called Mark of the Ninja, and it's made by the same people who made Shank.
Okay.
And it's a stealth ninja game. It's actually pretty cool. I think it might be good as like a half an hour one off instead of a full series, because it's something very I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe exactly why I think a game will or won't do well in a Let's Play. Sometimes it's very surprising what works well. Like, I wasn't expecting Shank to do as well as it did, but it ended up being just a really great show for us.
Yeah, Shank was very simple, but not so simple that it was boring at all.
Yeah, I think what it is when it's just me and Gïrth plays, the best kind of thing is unexpected stuff and dialogue. And then when you're doing 2 people, the best thing seems to be not or almost no dialogue and consistent action rather than surprising action.
Well, variability is huge when you're doing 2 people
Yep.
because you definitely want to see things happening you're able to talk about.
Yeah.
It's for some reason easier for one person to talk about one thing constantly than for 2 people to talk about one thing constantly.
And
Trying to have a dialogue.
although I wasn't expecting, we ended up talking a lot about stuff that wasn't even Shank, which I really like. I really want. I think Bros Play works really well when we completely stop talking about the game.
I think the idea is for the game to become part of the conversation in a way that neither takes away from each other in any way.
Yeah.
And I think we've been doing a pretty good job as that, more and more so as we've moved on to our more recent games.
Yeah, and I just went and watched Bros Play Shank episode 1. I was really bad at audio leveling back then. I made
Really?
the game volume is so quiet. Like it's more like a podcast.
That's okay
um,
though. I mean, we ideally have it consistent, but
okay, but games we haven't started yet that I
right.
think would work really well. In no order of importance or anything. It's just yeah. It's just when it's actually I believe it's no kind of alphabetical. It was based on my Steam list in order that they showed up. Anyway,
So alphabetical but categorized.
yeah. Well, so like I have that favorites
Favorites,
list.
yeah. That
Yeah,
always messes with me because I'm always using your account, and it's like, oh no, I don't have this game, or it's in the other huge list of games.
yeah.
For anyone who doesn't
Um,
know, Gïrth loves to buy these games that are like dirt cheap on the Steam sale. Games that, I mean, I'm sure there's some games on there you only know the basic premise behind,
yep.
but that's okay.
There's games I bought and I've never played.
Oh, I'm sure. There's no way you've played all those games.
I have 183.
I also feel like I'm actually one of the weird ones who has a Steam library without a bunch of those games.
You have a really small library, but they're all games that you've played, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've gotten quite a bit of use out of. Like, I'll sometimes go to my Steam library when I'm bored or the internet's not working, and I'll just go after all those older games.
I've been finding recently that some of the old games, especially in the last decade, have been better than a lot of stuff that's coming out now. And that's and
So
some
what
some
generation do you mean? Sorry.
that the like the last 10 years of games, like games that came out during the Hitman Blood Money BioShock era. That there was a really great era for games.
It was a golden age of console gaming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
PC gaming is starting to take off, though.
It is. It's getting a lot better, and a lot more companies are optimizing. I found out recently that it's not necessarily. It's my computer isn't as what could be better, and it would run games better. But the real thing that could improve is the optimization of those games. Um, and one of the games I really want to play on the show is Dark Souls 2. And that came out in 20 well, it's a redone version of it that came out a year after the original. So it was like 2014 or 2015, but basically pretty much the same era that Witcher 3 came out. And Dark Souls 2 runs so well, perfect 60 frames a second with the occasional CPU like jump or stutter, but only between levels, the way that most games do, where you kind of like jump in between loading a new area.
Oh yeah, that happens.
But other than that, it's fucking perfect. There's never any slowdown. While as over on The Witcher 3, it's just kind of like every few seconds, it's just going like it doesn't run very well. And upgrading my computer would definitely run better, but it could run on my PC if it was optimized better. That's the issue.
One of the problems is that if something is written slightly inefficiently, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. But when you are processing gigs of data every couple of minutes, then it does matter how efficiently you're able to actually call those graphics.
For sure. All right, so oops.
So yeah, other games we haven't played.
Yeah, Half-Life. And
Half-Life 1?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's several versions. Like we could do the original Half-Life. We could do Half-Life Source, which is an updated version, or we could do Black Mesa, which is a complete overhaul redo. Like game sounds, visuals, physics, textures, voiceovers, everything was redone, but to the exact way that the original was done, and it's a totally separate game, like made by a different company.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
really cool. And Half-Life 1 is fantastic. I mean, if we played Half-Life 1 the original, it would still hold up, just not visually.
Mm-hmm.
We also have either Hitman Blood Money, or we could do Absolution, which is the newest one. Absolution is a great game. I guess they compromised on the basis of Hitman, because every Hitman, there was 4 Hitman games. I actually have every fucking Hitman game on PC. The first 4 Hitman games would put you in a level. You'd have a target, some optional stuff, and then an escape, and you could do anything in any order. In Absolution, it's a linear based. It's several areas in one level that usually have exits to define them as separate areas, but it's the same concept, just much, much smaller. And then the game is also linear because it has an actual story instead of just here's a guy to kill. So they really changed around the formula, and I really appreciate the boldness on that, because that was a several decade long series, and they just decided to just completely change it up. So it's good for what it tried to do. It's definitely a good game. It's just not the best Hitman game.
Yeah, I would definitely be more interested in Blood Money if we were to do that, especially because Blood Money has this great system where each level in and of itself is self-completing and has a way to do it perfectly.
Yep.
And I think the idea would be to do them perfectly, and we could each like bet on how much noise and violence there will be.
Yeah, I thought with Blood Money we could just do one episode as the full level.
I think that's definitely the way to go. We just sort of chop it together until it's an appropriate length, because it might take us 2 hours depending on the level.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of failures, right?
Well,
or do we just show the successful one plus a few of the sort of highlights from the others?
I would probably practice it and just know the level before we go in.
That could work too, because if we're only doing them, maybe we do an episode once in a week, so that way you have a week to prepare.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay, so that's an option.
So we also have, by far, my favorite game of all time, Rogue Trooper.
Oh, boy. Yeah, Rogue Trooper's a good one.
Yeah. I actually just referenced it in Fallout 3. I hope somebody one day notices it.
Or watches this and then goes and notices it.
Well, I'm not going to say what it was.
Oh, okay.
Then we also have Fallout New Vegas. Although that may be better to do it later, because I'm currently doing Fallout 3 on Gïrth Plays. I also have Fable Anniversary, which is the original Fable redone, overhauled.
That's a pretty good one. It's not that long.
It is a pretty short game. That game was awesome, but they promised more than there was in the. I think I talked about this in a Bros Play, but Peter Molyneux said that there was going to be things like planting a tree when you're a child and coming back to it when you're an adult, and it's a full grown tree and shit like that. Like he promised this huge, expansive, constantly changing world.
And it was not at all that.
No, it's a very static world, actually.
It was fun, but yeah, it was not a dynamic world.
Yeah, like other than being wanted by the guards, there wasn't much variation other than your own just choosing your play style. And then also there was people who, based on whether you were good or bad, liked you or disliked you. But
it didn't matter. You could just kill everyone anyways.
Yeah. And it was really good for its time, though. I remember being very impressed when I played it on the Xbox, on a friend's Xbox.
That's true. For an Xbox game, it is quite impressive. Are there others on that list, or was Fable the last one?
That was it. Okay,
well, I actually have one to suggest, too.
Yeah.
There's also Reaper of Souls.
Reaper of Souls?
That's Diablo.
Oh! I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I've entered. For anyone curious, this is Diablo 3, but I primarily play hardcore, just because hardcore has the certain unknown aspect to it. It drives you to play more. Because yesterday I had a connection drop and my character died, like at max level. So yesterday I started a new character and he's already level 63. in like 2.5 hours. The curve drops a lot. The better you get, the faster you're able to make new characters.
I want to talk more about Dark Souls 2, because I really want to play it on Gïrth Plays, and I've already practiced for being able to run through the game pretty quickly at the beginning, at least. Um, do you know the premise of the Souls series?
No, not really.
So you kill enemies to get souls. Sounds pretty basic. Use your souls to upgrade stuff. Sounds pretty normal. But if you die, you drop all your souls. And then you have to run back and pick them up. And if you die before you pick them up, you lose them.
Wow.
That's the basis. That's what makes it difficult from a patience standpoint, is because you're making these decisions like, should I push forward? There might be another checkpoint, but if I lose here, this is really far from the last one, and I'm going to have to survive all the way up to here to get these souls back. Or do I run all the way back to the original ones, play it safe, and save my souls? And then the game itself is fucking ridiculous. Like, you can level up a shit ton and go back to the first area, and they still do a decent amount of damage to you. And enemies stagger you when they hit you. And it's very customizable. Like, you can upgrade your poise, which is how fast you recover from being staggered. Or you can upgrade how much you can carry, because how quickly you move is based on your percent. The percent that you are able to carry. So let's say you're able to carry 47 pounds on you. If you go over 100% at 48 pounds out of 47, you suddenly become way heavier than if you're under 100%. And then if you're under 75%, you move even faster. So you can upgrade your carry capacity to make sure that to lower your percent of your current available weight to make you a faster character. And the heavier your armor is, the better the more it blocks, but the slower you become. So the way that you build is very customizable, and there's so many different ways to play it too.
That actually sounds really cool.
And I know a lot about the beginning of it. I'm about 30 hours into the game, and it is such a patience-trying game. Like, it's just, it keeps getting more and more and more ridiculous. And what's really cool about it is it has that it's always thrilling to push forward and find the next bonfire, which is the checkpoint. And because you're walking around in this place you've never been, and you've got the souls on you that you've from all the things you've killed on the way there, and you never know, like, there could be a bonfire just around the corner. But it's that thrill of being in a new area, but because they added such a huge repercussion to dying, that every new area is exciting and scary. It's really fucking cool. Now, from the perspective of the game, it's gonna be cool for you, but for me, I've already done it, so it's not. I'm gonna be just blasting through the first few hours, and it'll also serve as a walkthrough for anybody who wants to play the game. But it's extremely discouraging at the start because you don't understand what's going on. Like, well, I don't know what is this stuff. What does upgrading adaptability do? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that customizability in games just makes it so much more interesting when you can go through a whole playthrough, do it again, and have a completely different experience, or at least handle on enemies.
Yeah, and then, to make it even more difficult, enemy players can invade your world and fucking kill you.
What?
Yeah! And you don't get to choose that option. The only way to avoid that is to turn off your online capability. And so, like, there's been times where I finally get up to a boss and I'm just about to fight them, and then it's like, so-and-so is invading your world. I'm like, no. You can't use a bonfire once an enemy player shows up, and you can't go through doors.
Oh.
So you're stuck there. You have to either fight them and win or lose. My strategy is I just run over to the bonfire and fight them there. So if I die, I'll just respawn and pick it back up. But there's certain areas where you find you need to use an object in order to go into someone else's world. So you have to find that object. It's not just like teleport me into somebody's world. You have to actually find it. So in areas where you find those objects, you end up finding more invaders. But this is what's really cool about this game. You can also summon people to help you. And those people who are summoned will use a summoning stone, and then you'll see that sign in your world, and you can bring them in. And from their perspective, what they get to do is, it's like a mission for them, because it just assumes, based on the player you're joining, what they're trying to accomplish. And so if you help another player, you get cool shit for just helping somebody through the game. And you can do it at any level. You can be like jacked out of your mind and go back to the beginning and help out some newbie, and then get cool stuff for yourself. And there's also messages that people can leave you by only using specific words. So it'd be something like, you can use the word door, and you can use the word open, but you can't type your own thing. So people get very creative with their messages. Are you there?
Yeah. So how exactly does this work? That you can only give certain words.
So it just you choose how you want to begin the sentence, and then it'll give you a bunch of categories for words, like objects and creatures and actions and stuff like that. And then you go into the game, you go into there and you choose a word like door, and then you choose your next word. And do you want to and you can do something with an exclamation mark or something with 3 dots behind it or something. So people get extremely creative with it, and it's some of the funniest shit ever. That's the only reason I wouldn't want to turn off the online. It was really frustrating me when players are coming out of nowhere and just smoking me. And but if you do that, you lose all those messages, and they're some of the funniest shit ever. Is just people just coming up with clever ways of communicating via these messages on the ground.
That's actually pretty cool. The messages on the ground.
Yeah, and then I really want a PlayStation 4, because the game after Dark Souls 2 is Bloodborne. It's the spiritual successor, but it's almost entirely. I mean, they changed the feel of Bloodborne from Dark Souls. I watched Bloodborne twice through on Game Grumps, so I know the game very well. I just haven't played it, but it's Bloodborne's much faster, much faster. But Dark Souls has this like kind of sluggish feel to it, but they intended that sluggishness. It feels very much like a lot of the old, like really old games, like Castlevania. The way that they intended the sluggishness of the whip, and they also do this thing. People have become so accustomed to respawning at the beginning of a boss fight. Not in Dark Souls. Rarely is there a bonfire next to a boss fight. Most of the time, you have to fight a bunch of enemies and then the boss every single fucking time. And then if you lose in the boss fight, you can't get out of a boss fight once it starts. So if you lose and drop your souls in there, you have to go and try the boss again, or you lose your fucking souls, and you'll never get them back until you beat the boss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty intense.
Yeah, like this game feels like what people would have made in the NES version or era if they had the technology. That's what it feels like. It's a game that is not. It's not like.
Doesn't baby you.
It doesn't baby you one bit. It doesn't even explain the game if you don't want it to. Like you figure out how buttons work by going up to tombstones in the beginning of the game and clicking on or pressing A on them, and it's like press RB to do this. It doesn't even offer how to use the controls if you're not paying attention. It's ridiculous, and the amount of detail they put into some of the secrets, like it's like a Zelda Castlevania today style ideas, like all these ideas that they did back on the NES, where they would put all this time and love and effort into something that the player might never see. I'm sure there's things I've missed, because there's like, how the fuck would you figure that out without a walkthrough?
So is that a game you would play with Gïrthcast probably?
No, I really want to do that on Bros Play.
Okay, so what if we did that and Hitman Blood Money?
That sounds fantastic.
Okay, and then that way So I guess you might actually have to start practicing up for not the first mission. The first mission's pretty easy.
Oh, I could do the tutorial with my eyes closed.
So then maybe practice the second mission already. Well, maybe do them both.
Sounds good.
All right, and then yeah, Dark Souls. Sounds pretty exciting.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but I probably got to wrap this one up.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching Broscast. Twitter, emails, and stuff. Go and do the things that people do. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know how to. We'll figure out how to end these eventually.
Be free and prosper.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, when I first started doing Let's Plays on my own, I had no idea how to end it. It was always a weird like goodbye.
But you got to figure out your own little thing because there's no one catch-all for it.
I could also just I could just go and separately end it. Like I could just like.
That's how
thanks.
Joe Rogan does it.
Yeah. That's where we put all the advertisements too.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I will. I'll talk to you later, bro. That was a great cast.
All right, bro.
Have a good day, dude.
Yeah, man. Peace.
Peace.